Hi, this is Dr. Stephanie Wattier, and I'm the host of Conversations with a Chiropractor. I believe healing often begins with connection, and that's really what this podcast is about. These are real conversations about health, healing, life, and the stories that shape us. Some guests come from the wellness world, some come from the community, and some simply bring a life experience worth sharing. My hope is that each conversation invites you to listen, learn, reflect, and maybe see your own life or healing in a new way. Sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy this conversation with a chiropractor.
So as I mentioned to you, the original founder of astrology, his name was Hermes Trismegistus. He lived 8 to 12,000 years ago, it's said. And astrology was often used for royalty as a means of helping them grow and develop in their strengths and abilities. The more responsibility you have, the greater the weight you carry, the more you need your light and gifts.
Yeah.
You can't be a mediocre person running a kingdom.
Right. Yeah, that's profound. Absolutely.
You can't be a mediocre person to run a successful entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why I'm always reading like self-help books.
Right.
Trying to, take the iron to the fire and sharpen my skills and trying to be better.
And
Yeah.
I have a book that will be coming out next year. It's actually called Know Yourself, Perform Better.
Exciting.
One of the key ingredients missing in a lot of self-help books is that it has to be about you. So it can't just be a formulated system. If you don't know yourself, if you haven't taken the time to understand yourself, to understand the qualities and how they have manifested as your strengths and abilities and areas of wisdom, and also how they have manifested challenges because you haven't necessarily supported them in the right way. Or if there's healing from your past that needs to happen as well, right? So you have to know yourself first. Otherwise, any other outside methodology is not necessarily going to land with the impact that it could.
Interesting. Wow, that's really poignant. It is interesting to think about when kings and rulers were using this as like a tool and why or how do you think that it sort of became, I don't know if diluted is the word or less prominent? Like how or why do you think that cultural shift happened?
Well, we can thank the 70s, the New Age movement.
Okay.
So to have your astrological chart, especially if you think like thousands of years ago, first of all, astrologers were probably some of the most educated people in the entire kingdom. Number one, first of all, they had to be versed in math and geometry because they would use an astrolabe and they would go and calculate the position of the planets.
Wow.
So they had to be versed in math and geometry. They had to be able to read. They had to understand human nature. And they needed to be able to do that and to understand not only how to communicate with a person, but also how all of these astrological energies applied to the various facets of life. Because we can apply them to individuals, but then there is a form of astrology called mundane astrology, which looks at the effect of astrology on things like the weather, on crops, on trade, war, all those things.
Wow.
So that's the origins of astrology. So we went from being the most educated people in the kingdom, or amongst them anyways, to the stereotype that you described earlier. The gypsy who tells you a bad fortune and asks for $5,000 to fix it, right?
Yeah, right.
And truthfully, it is the 70s that changed that.
Really?
And so I know. So here's the interesting thing. Publishers saw not just the relevance, but the, I guess you could say, untapped market of astrology.
Okay.
And You know, to get your chart done back then, you actually would have had to go see somebody. So obviously, you can't really use true astrology in the publishing world because accessibility is going to be very limited. But you know what most people do know? Almost everybody knows their birthday.
Yes. Yeah.
So there was a significant shift towards zodiac sign books.
Okay.
And that began the process of diluting what was an incredibly intellectual venture into metaphysics, understanding human nature, and its applications to, human wellness in the world on a grander scale.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed this podcast, would you please rate it, review it, like, or subscribe? You can find me on social media at watchyourwellness.com, Dr. Stephanie Wattier on Instagram, or Watch Your Wellness Chiropractic and Massage on Facebook. And I'm so curious where your next conversation will take you.